Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Austin Wade Smith. I think I know a lot of you, but many of you I also don't. So, welcome. If we haven't met, thanks for being here. If this is your first time coming to an Ecocredit Builder Lab, or you've been here many times, this is a space where the community that's interested in developing sort of the next evolution of ecosystem service and biocultural credits. This is where we discuss what's emerging, how to do it, and how to integrate Regen's tech stack and a lot of the different tools that we've been developing to do that. So it's intended to be a space where if you have no exposure to this, that this is a great front door. And if you're in the weeds and developing a methodology or a particular kind of credit class, that you can also get support. So if you're here, you're in the right place. Don't have to have any level of competence to know what we're talking about. Um, so usually the format goes is that we try to serve up something new and show what's just emerging within this sort of eco credit development pipeline and that larger community. And then we'll transition into doing some breakout rooms. And generally, depending on who's here and who shows up and what they're interested in, we'll structure the breakout rooms accordingly. So I don't really have a prefixed sense of which rooms they're going to be, but I definitely know what we'll probably do is we'll have one breakout room for the sort of demo or the sort of presentation that we'll start out with that Sam from Regen Registry is going to be giving. And then another one will be just for like general beginners or anybody who's just like not sure where to land, you can just go there. And if we want to, we can spin up another dedicated chat around a particular topic as that seems appropriate. So yeah, I think with that, before I introduce Sam and sort of set the stage for the presentation, does anyone have any questions or just like context setting that you're curious to know before we kind of go into it? Cool. Okay. Well, if you have questions, as always, you can put them in the chat. So we're excited to invite Sam Bennett, who's not a stranger at all to this space, one of the people who has co-conceived and built this EBL project out to present some new work that's happening in the sort of design and architecture of Regen Registry, or what's generally referred to as Regen Registry 2.0. So I'm not going to say too much about it because I'll let Sam talk about it. But Sam, you want to introduce yourself and sort of take it away?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I'm Sam. I've been working at R&D PBC for about a little over 4 years, and a lot of my work over the last 4 years has focused on the development of credits, development of scientific methodologies, and early on the development of R&D's crediting program called the Regen Registry program. And kind of over the course of the last few years, the market has changed quite a bit. And in trying to align with kind of the original white paper that was written by Gregory and others, we have been exploring this new concept of Registry 2.0 to try to align kind of our goals and our platform development and the support that we give to communities with kind of the like original vision and mission. So I'm going to be giving a little presentation on this. Definitely going to be introducing a lot of new concepts. These concepts are kind of in the early stages of development, just kind of ironing out how we want to articulate them, how we want to visualize them. And so I'll try to go slow. I would love for people to ask questions about this. Maybe just drop those in the chat. And then after I give this kind of short presentation, we can like track those questions and try to go back to those slides because we'll be introducing, just kind of like more process level concepts, but also exploring some technical concepts as well. So with that, maybe I'll share this screen. Do you guys see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Cool. So yeah, like I said, we'll be introducing this new concept that we're currently calling Regen Registry 2.0. that is not necessarily the what we're calling Regen Registry, but just kind of a term that we're using to conceptualize our evolution in the development of our platform and program and approach to ecological crediting and contracting. Yeah, so we're, like I said, we're starting to work on this new idea. In communicating about this, some things that we hope to address is addressing market fragmentation by repositioning us with a kind of more neutral, interoperable platform. We want to expand our scope to serve as kind of a hub for the broader space of ecological claims and contracting, as opposed to just credits. We want to accelerate regenerative efforts and advanced data integration with new tools like AI and Web3 and Web3 adjacent technologies like RDF. And we really want to build tools that are able to support kind of a broader range of communities earlier in the process. And yeah, maybe before getting into kind of the history and reason for this kind of like new conception, I just wanted to share a little bit about where we are as kind of a network and Regen Network. So over the last 7 years, we've done a really great job kind of conceptualizing the white paper. We've built Regen Ledger, which includes the Ecocredit module, the data module, and the groups module. That allows for users to engage in crediting. We just released our new data stream feature, which actually allows people to start anchoring and signing pieces of information on Regen Ledger. We also have the groups module that people could use to engage in governance. So that's kind of that first layer. We've built the Regen app, which is a front-end marketplace app that allows people to create projects, start to upload data, issue credits, and like list and sell those credits. And then, for a while, we had the Regen Registry, which was originally kind of focused on the Regen Registry program, which was our and R&D's approach to define a set of rules and requirements to support communities in creating credits in kind of a more structured fashion based off of what we were seeing in the market. And so kind of over the last 4 years, we've seen a lot of changes in the market. The growing urgency around international climate initiatives, technological advancements, shifting market dynamics has created kind of an explosion of new initiatives. I don't know if people have seen, kind of graphics like these, but, this is one I think that I pulled for maybe biodiversity. And this just helps try to articulate all of the groups that are currently engaging in biodiversity crediting in some way, whether it's in creating programs or standards, acting as project developers, creating marketplaces, DMRV tools, curation tools on the funding side of things. And what's really exciting is that these initiatives kind of show a growing interest in more holistic approaches, that we've been moving slow, and so people want to move faster, apply new tools. There's an increased demand for transparency and in real-time verification. Some of that came out of critiques of more traditional or older crediting approaches. And while that made challenges in the space, it also really kind of sparked excitement around how we could do things differently. And there's, also more of a shift towards wanting to have more inclusive models, bioregional approaches, including traditional ecological knowledge, community-led initiatives. So kind of this explosion has been really exciting, and it creates challenges with so many users entering the space and so many new organizations. A lot of people are working on the same things, and we're creating silos, and there's not necessarily communication across those silos, either because people don't know that other organizations exist or are working on similar things, or people are building out their own platforms and kind of like racing each other to hit market first. There's duplication of efforts across organizations. And even though there's kind of a shift towards trying to support smaller communities and more bioregionally led initiatives, with the emergence of all these models, there's also continual, barriers to entry for smaller orgs, smaller communities. And things are definitely speeding up, but it's also moving slow. And so kind of with all of that in mind, we were thinking about ways in which we could shift the way that we develop our registry to try and support interoperability, helping people engage earlier on in the process, solving issues around transparency and auditability, and expanding the scope of the registry beyond just crediting, because there's so many other forms of regenerative initiatives, project finance, regenerative finance, that we didn't want to kind of just get stuck in this idea of having an opinionated credit program. So we came up with this idea of Registry 2.0, which is represents kind of a strategic pivot for R&D to position us not necessarily as competitors in the race to develop the best marketplace or the best program, but more as providers of neutral, interoperable tools that serve a broader array of stakeholders in the ecological crediting and contracting ecosystem. Like I said, this approach aims to address kind of market fragmentation, and establish us as more of a central hub for information where diverse approaches can coexist and interact. We hope that this might foster cross-pollination of ideas and best practices, and allow people to kind of track what others are doing in the space. And in doing this, we kind of want to kind of redefine or revolutionize the concept of what an environmental registry can track. Previously, traditional registries were usually just used to track projects and credits. But in expanding the scope of what it means to register something, we want that to also apply to registration of documents, whether that's a crediting protocol, a program, a standard, legal contracts and agreements, environmental entities. Like, I don't know if people read Austin's paper on ecological institutions, but giving legal personhood to things like rivers or trees or ecosystems, or just registering data sets in general. So the idea of Registry 2.0 kind of roots itself in three key components. The first is a framework, the second is process, and the third is kind of the registry system. And so I'm going to go through each of these. And again, as questions come up, if you just want to drop those in the chat, we can definitely come back to them. Cool. So I'm going to start with talking about the framework. So the Regen Registry framework kind of forms the backbone of Registry 2.0 in that it defines the technical rules and processes necessary to effectively use Regen Ledger to create an interoperable registry system. So the reason for that is currently Regen Ledger could be used in any way. People engaging in using Regen Ledger to track data or to create crediting protocols could adopt their own kind of way of describing credits or data, way of structuring that data. And so the framework would define common data standards and taxonomies, data types, and more complex processes and workflows that people could use to create interoperability between different approaches. So even if you're using, different kind of taxonomies to refer to maybe like environmental impacts or relationships between things, on a technical level, we would conform to one taxonomy or one data standard that allows for platform interoperability and machine readability. And so these are some examples that I kind of created for the different data types, just to provide some examples of what this framework would provide. So starting with things like data types. So this would be kind of an evidence data type where we would just have some piece of evidence ID, maybe a date on when that evidence was collected, an evidence type, like is it a satellite image? Is it a soil sample? Is it a governance decision? And then kind of the data source. And I also made one for claims, which claims would maybe be a little bit more complex data type. in that they would also have a start and end date, but they might make it a statement about something. And then they would link that to evidence. Yeah. So yeah, and then this is kind of a more complex example of what we could use the framework to define at a technical level. So this would be, a project registration workflow where maybe you're linking together some different steps involved in the issuance of credits under a given credit protocol that people could start using to upload data in a more machine readable way, and structure things that we can engage in, things like automated issuance or progressive verification. So in this example on the left, you can see that you'd have a step one, which is submit project details. This could be your project plan with like a name, location, type, start and end date. And then maybe later on you're making claims. And again, going back to this example, a claim could be a statement with a bunch of different evidence made by some sort of author. Cool. So that was the framework. The second component is the registry system, which I would say is kind of a product of the ledger in the framework. So essentially, the registry system is an opinionated way of using the ledger and other tools to help users engage with uploading data, making claims, creating credits, uploading other forms of contracts. And so essentially the way that it would work is that organizations that choose to adopt the framework to enter and receive data from the ledger would be using this registry system. And so this allows us to expand the scope of what it means to use the registry, in that before people would really associate registries with an opinionated program or a specific platform or a specific process. But in adopting this kind of common technical language, organizations that are trying to develop out their own platform, running their own crediting protocols, programs, could actually just use this common language, or at least solving that issue of interoperability. And so to I think tie this together, I think that it's really important to call out the front end applications. So the front end applications will make kind of all of the ledger functionality accessible. And as we're building out tools, whether it's marketplace tools, governance tools, MRV tools, kind of like project platforms like Open Future Coalition, these are all different apps that are allowing users to engage in different forms of regenerative initiatives. But the goal is that in kind of using a common language, in adopting the approach defined by Regen Registry 2.0, we could have platform level interoperability so that, if we were to create a project in the Regen Registry app, if Open Future Coalition was using that could come up in their app. Cool. And so that was kind of the more technical side of things. And I just wanted to share some ideas and examples of really what it means to kind of expand this idea of registration to other applications. So, the first one, the one that we've been focused on, quite a bit over the last 4 or 5 years is just, crediting bodies can register programs or protocols, using kind of our platform. But other examples would include, government agencies registering policies or programs. So just having transparent tracking of the decision-making processes, the rules and requirements associated with a certain policy or program. Maybe it's a grant program that they're wanting to distribute funds to, projects engaging in regenerative farming. They could register their kind of program and use the registry to track data and remit funds based off of whether or not people achieve those milestones. Another example would be, indigenous or local communities can register, traditional ecological knowledge or farming practices to ensure that, kind of their voices are heard and valued, or if they just want to use it as kind of a repository of information to track, kind of like culture and history, and preserve and learn from that. On the kind of more of the demand side, Other organizations that could use it, it could be like marketplaces. So there are a lot of third-party marketplaces out there, like Patch, like Climate Trade. These marketplaces could plug into the registry and kind of consume data, and just pull all of that to sell credits and kind of expand that user base. Curation agencies like Silvera and B0 would be able to start pulling data from the registry under that kind of common framework, because everyone's going to be using this common set of data standards and taxonomies. So it would make it easier for them to pull in information and provide ratings on credits. Or just, another one could be more kind of academic organizations, research institutes. So essentially to advance kind of our scientific understanding of the relationship between practices and outcomes, scientists could pull from Registry 2.0 for, just general research or to inform policy or, help improve kind of conservation strategies. So this is kind of this is actually a graphic that Austin created recently in some of our conversations around this, that shows the kind of hierarchy of technical data types and claims that people could be using the registry for. So starting with the most simple would just be data and knowledge. So that could be traditional ecological knowledge sets. It could be soil sample results from your farm. It could be, life plans, but essentially it's just raw data that you're putting up onto the registry. Events and activities is kind of similar. So that could be, like tracking that a governance decision did take place, or that you did kind of go out and plant trees. But essentially these two are similar in that you're kind of just like tracking the data and events, activities that are happening on the ground in the fields, and uploading that to the registry. The next is evidence. And so the difference between evidence and just raw data is that evidence kind of implies that you're using it to support the creation of a claim. And so this could be, collections of data sets, so like soil samples, in addition to the analysis of that, in addition to, kind of like third-party attestations, could create a claim about soil carbon increasing over time. Both evidence and claims can be verified. So you could have verified evidence, like, did this off-chain governance decision take place? Yes or no. That could be verified by multiple parties. Did this soil samples go to this lab? That can be verified. And then similarly, claims can be verified, which we actually see quite a bit in the traditional crediting space with VBBs. And then things like credits would just be very, much more complex aggregations of all of these different data types. And so the goal is really to expand the scope of what it means to register something, to not just include credits or projects, but include this whole set of use cases. This kind of supports the idea that of just like progressive verification, something that R&D has been working on quite a bit in our recent tooling. Is we want to provide pathways for people to engage earlier on in the process. So in creating our permissionless project tooling, which allows people to come in and create project pages independent of registering under a specific crediting protocol, and the data stream functionality that we provided recently that allows people just to start uploading data. We want people to engage earlier on in the process such that they can just start telling their story, start uploading their data, and then over time, they can turn that data into evidence that supports claims. They can come in and provide digital attestations on that. And this is kind of some mock-ups that we've done in the past around what that could look like, where you have a card that has a bunch of claims about in this case a soil carbon project, and then you could just see what the evidence for that claim is. It's anchored on Regen Ledger. Maybe there'd be something like we wouldn't have checks if it wasn't signed by a third party, and then the check would come if it turns into a verified claim. So these are just kind of some concepts that we've been working on in terms of how we want to like visualize this and think about it in developing tooling. Yeah, and some of our goals for this again is to really kind of expand the scope of what it means to register and provide tooling that really supports use cases that extend beyond just crediting. We would love to see people using this tooling to track data for projects under grant programs or other forms of contracts, for policy decisions, for science efforts, or kind of yeah, things like that. And so in doing that, in positioning us as kind of a more neutral tool provider, we want more people to use the platform, and in doing that, kind of foster collaboration and innovation. And yeah, and then kind of on the technical side, I think the really exciting thing here is that in kind of creating a common language, in starting to adopt more machine readable approaches to structure data claims, we want to enhance interoperability between platforms, support organizations in developing out new tools, new concepts, marketplaces, things like that, and supporting their business model while being able to plug into this kind of broader technical ecosystem. And another exciting thing is in translating this into more machine readable kind of information, we can start to build out knowledge graphs, engage in advanced querying, and apply tools like AI, which I think over the last 6 months we've all found that have actually been really helpful in being able to more quickly advance our understanding of relationships between things. Yeah, and I think that that's all that I have for now. So I will maybe stop sharing for a second and open it up for questions.
I think we can do some like open discussion for questions immediately, like responses to what you presented, Sam, and then I'll split us up into 2 breakout rooms, but we'll just give some time for people to let that sink in. And if you have questions for the whole group, now's a good time. Okay, then I have one. You touched on this briefly, and I don't think it's a connection that has been discussed in public as much, but it has to do with the sort of the interface and the how users interact with the app, given this Registry 2.0 idea and how it integrates with data streams. But you mentioned a little bit about these like claims cards and how the Registry 2.0 framework can integrate into this notion of claims cards, which are related to the data stream. Maybe you could like rewind back and tease apart the details about the data stream, the claims cards, and the sort of notion of claims evidence verification stuff once more, because I feel like that's a juicy part that we hasn't gotten enough conversation so far. And then Howard, you're up next. Sam, you're muted if you think we can hear you.
Cool. Thank you. I did not myself. I'm just going to start by showing really quickly what the data stream looks like, just to help ground kind of understanding and what we're talking about, because I know that we mentioned that we launched a new feature, but let's see, just to show what this looks like. So this is the feature that Regen R&D Inc. actually launched on our platform yesterday. So this is kind of a new feature that we're calling the data stream that essentially allows users to start uploading any type of data to their project page. And what's happening behind the scenes is it's actually being anchored on Regen Ledger, and people can also sign it. So essentially provide attestations to its veracity. So, so this is ERA Brazil's project page. for their umbrella species jaguar credits in the Pantel ecosystem in Brazil. And so as you can see, they've started to upload, kind of the history of their projects. So this includes everything from camera trap images to kind of updates about, what the team was doing in the field. And if we click into one of these, I think that the location needs to be fixed. But for instance, so they were saying that they did some fauna monitoring. They just did a little update about, kind of what that entailed. So they did kind of a little blog post of this with some of their results. Right now, our data tooling only really supports providing blog style updates. But then they're able to upload, kind of like images, and it looks like they uploaded a document as well to this. And down here, you can see that they uploaded it, and so it was actually anchored onto Regen Ledger, and then they went and signed it. So they essentially were making a statement that we, as ERA Brazil, did this work and some sort of analysis, and this is us making our attestation against its veracity. So how this relates to the things that I was talking about with kind of like data, evidence, and claims in that hierarchy. So just good to go back to maybe this slide. So right now, ERA Brazil actually hasn't registered their project under a specific crediting protocol. They're still kind of in the process of making the final touches on their protocol. But they plan to issue credits later this year. And so I think that this is a good example of someone engaging early in the process, where, as you can see here, they're, saying that they got, 16 camera trap images between X and Y date. They recorded 983 records of identified species. And these are all examples of what I would say would just be kind of like raw data. So if we were to go to, oops, yeah, something like this. So this could be kind of like a piece of data where there's a start and end date. There's an author. That author would be ERA Brazil. The evidence type might be that camera trap image, and the data source could be something like the ID of the camera trap that they used. As ERA Brazil gets closer to actually registering their project, and as they start to develop monitoring reports, I would say that all of this kind of independent evidence would turn into essentially, or all this independent data would turn into evidence to support a claim. That claim is that they want to create credits, that essentially these credits are going to be used to fund the stewardship of stewardship activities associated with conservation of that area. And so, this is all evidence that they actually engaged in that stewardship. They were collecting data. And so, this kind of like raw data will be turned into evidence, that they're using to make claims about actually doing the work, seeing improvements in ecological state, whether that's presence of, increased presence of jaguars, improvements in ecosystem function, and then they'll actually use that to create credits. And so the last thing I'll say is just, like in terms of like trust signals, and verification. And when I was talking about the difference between verified evidence and verified claims and claims, an example of like additional trust signals to like improve that verification is like, Regen Registry potentially would sign something like this saying that we did receive that data, we checked, we think it's like authentic, or we did kind of sign their claims to actually issue credits.
Right on. Thanks for doing a little bit of a deeper dive. A lot going on there. Howard, you've been patient. Thanks for waiting.
Well, and thanks, Sam, for the fulsome explanation. My question is really about the economic model underlying the Regen Registry 2.0 and R&D in general. How are we able to fund these remarkable advances on infrastructure? Are there where do the well, how do we get the revenue into the system? Is it through the sale of credits or the access to the platform. I've really appreciated all I've learned about the technology, and I don't think I've had a similar understanding of the economic model and what the relationship is with the users who develop the credits, as well as the participants who are going to rely on the registry for the valuable information.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would actually say that it's kind of a combination of, like all of the above. So, our economic model up until now in operating the registry has really been focused on kind of a percent take of credit sales. We chose to do a percent take rather than flat fees or issuance levies. Like Vera uses issuance levies, so they're kind of encouraged to, the more credits they issue, they get cents on the credit. And so we took, a percentage model just to take, kind of like percent of the project cost to make it more accessible to small projects. And, I think that model still really works for the program. As we start to develop more software, as the program expands, that also supports kind of decentralization of that program. Because we can decentralize things like registry agents. Like Howard, you've expressed interest in playing the role of a registry agent for projects in your kind of region. And so that percent model works well, where you as a registry agent could get a percent of that. And then we as operators of kind of like the larger set of infrastructure could be getting an additional percent to either fund program development or platform development. But expanding the scope of what it means to register, part of the maybe more kind of strategic positioning that we're trying to do with Registry 2.0 is to expand our user base. So organizations that previously saw us as competitors because we were operating a program might now understand that Vera can actually list, if Vera wanted to use Regen Registry, they could, because it's not associated just with the R&D's, kind of like original program, but it's a place where you can deploy your own program, your own protocols within that program. So, organizations like Vera, Sarah Carbono, kind of these emerging protocols that don't necessarily want a third party to control their program can still use the technology. So whether we're, charging for that via, percent fees or platform fees, we can kind of figure that out. And then, we could also apply this to other things like, government project registries, or, using it to track kind of policy. And we're actually, doing that for some organizations right now, where we're building versions of this app for other groups. And then through that, we're kind of funding the development of new features. So I think that over time, as we get users, we could explore platform fees, we could explore software licenses, which would be kind of another version of platform fees. And we can still support kind of this percentage-based model. I would also just end by saying that the really exciting stuff to me in developing this out is things like the framework, which early on we've conceptualized as open source, and also open source software has always been historically hard to fund. And so I think that is, our ability to implement such a grand vision is definitely limiting in that, we need to be able to finance all of it. And so probably picking and choosing what we can start with, and things that we have to kind of put on hold is one thing to consider.
I sure appreciate that behind the scenes look, because I've been a little bit haven't quite had a good understanding of how the rubber hit the road that way, and I guess I'll welcome more detail as we go forward. And I just want to make a general comment that I am truly impressed with the evolution of the platform and the program and all the intelligence that's gone into this build out. It's a real credit to the people on the team to have made the progress. It's obviously taken some time, but the distance you've covered is considerable.
Cool. Just spun up a fun side conversation with friend Tony Lai, who is in person with me here, so slow to respond. Tony saying hi. Okay, so the point of this call, in part, is to not just have it be like one way, people listening and absorbing information, but get a little more fine grained and make it more interactive. I think with the size of the group that we have today, we can just do 2 breakout rooms. And I'm gonna open them up and I'll let you all pick which ones you want to go into. So let's see, there's room 1 and room 2. And given that it's Registry 2.0, we'll let room 2 be dedicated for those folks who want to go in there. And I'll let Sam be the like anchor, but hopefully we can get some other registry or R&D folks in there too. And then Tony and I will hang here in room 1. Oh, guess we really only need 1 breakout room. I'm gonna fix that. And then if you don't want to change location, you can just stay here and we'll treat that room as a as like an intro, getting acquainted with the Ecocredit Builder Lab, with just getting your bearings. So if you're unfamiliar and like new to the space, then you can just stay here. So apologies for the confusion. There's only 1 breakout room. Go into the breakout room if you want to talk about Registry 2.0. I will make it now.
I'm actually headed over there, but I wanted to say hi, Tony. This is Jens.
Oh, great to see you, Jens. Cool. You all should be able to see the breakout room. So if you're interested in talking about Registry 2.0, which we'll consider a little bit more like an advanced topic, please head over there. If you want to get your bearings and sort of catch up on the context from which this all emerges, stay here and we can bring you up to speed or just get acquainted. And if we've never met, would love to meet you all. So please hang. Michael, I'm not sure. Maybe I've seen you on a call before. I'm not sure if we've met, but thanks for tuning in from Cape Town.
Thank you. I don't think we've met, but we may have been on some calls. I'm
Cool.
on a very steep catch-up journey.
Yeah, we're trying to lessen the grade of that so that it's a little bit more of a scrambling is fun, but not like a hard climb. So this is probably a good place to be to talk about that. Are you in the process of developing a credit or affiliated with an entity that's interested in doing this type of work or existing regeneration, or is it more like kind of grasping the landscape? What's going on?
So affiliated with an entity, we're in a valley here, 25,000 people. My journey with Regen Network started probably 3 years ago. Were you in existence then? When we were looking at placing land into a land trust and then issuing tokens against the land.
Yep.
And I went through your process, your sort of onboarding process way back then, and we hit all kinds of legal barriers. And so we paused that approach. And now it's been much more about engaging the community and getting them ready to do some regen work. What we're really trying to do is pair communities in river basins with corporates. The communities make a promise from an ESG level perspective to corporates, and then we've got to track it in some way. So because I've been not that much involved in your development and your journey, as I say, this is a bit of a catch up, and I can see how far behind I am on things.
Okay, but I just don't want you to feel that way because this is all just, I mean, you can feel however you want to feel, but it's just emerging. The data streams went live yesterday, just to be clear. So it's like
Okay.
Very much in formation. One of the things that, so yeah, very much welcome. And I'll open, after I respond to Michael's comment, I welcome anyone who hasn't like introduced themselves to say hi. But just to point back to sort of some of the architecture that Sam presented in his presentation around this notion of project pages, part of what we've been working on doing is to create a space where an initiative can be legible or like viewable by potential purchasers or other kinds of stakeholders as early in the process as possible, so that you're not developing credits and then having it, quote, go to market for the first time, but using this data streams, claims, and project pages as a way of basically structuring and allowing a project to interface with corporates or what might be purchasers in various forms effectively as early in the process as possible. So we've really tried to design it so that if you have a project in mind, you can create a project page, begin uploading and anchoring data about it on chain, basically immediately, and you take that in hand, whether as a a QR code that you can show to corporates or it's printed out, but effectively, like, here's what you need to know to begin building a relationship. And we want that to happen as soon as possible. So that is a cool functionality. There's nothing stopping any one of these projects well before deciding what kind of credits they are or the methodology you're going to use to just anchor your project on chain and start uploading data so that you can begin building those relationships. I see Efrain, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, welcome. Love for you to introduce yourself. And if you have any questions.
Ah, there it is. I couldn't take the mute off. Yeah, so I'm Efraín Orozco. I'm from Mexico. I'm currently staying in Vienna, Austria, but I'm actually working on a project for transitioning agriculture on agave. So agave, as you may know by now, it's 240 species of agave. They're all different, and I'm from this region called Jalisco, which is very focused on the agave called tequilana, which is used for tequila. So specifically, this type of the agave is kind of complicated because it's very dependent on agrochemicals. So for this specific species, which is the most produced one, we cannot do agroforestry systems just yet. We need to change legal structures and stuff like this. But for other species of agave that are used for other less commercial distillations, like mezcal or raicilla, or also there's agave that is used to feed in livestock and so on. We are developing agroforestry systems that are like successional or syntropic, and we are looking to generate or incorporate soil organic carbon in the process and measure it. And so far, we've been working with Ecometric, and they're from Regen Network.
Yeah.
And we're still piloting. We haven't generated any credit, but we're in this process of we've been around, in the conversation with Ecometric as well for a couple of years now. With things, I wish things were faster than they really are, but we're getting progress, and I'm happy to see that Regen Network is also making a lot of progress. I do believe a lot in the decentralized philosophy. And also, I've been learning a lot from David from Ecometric about how to differentiate and give value to high quality or precision data and all of this. And last but not least, I believe it's very important to be able to tell a story of a project from very early stage, because basically one of the main problems is to get funding when it's like very early stage. So that's one of the parts that I'm kind of like also very interested in being able to even be part of the development. I myself built like an Excel sheet. It's very simple, but it's like a model that uses the ecometric infrastructure, and I manually can put in data from territories, and with this we can do like a prediction of financials for projects. So something like this would be very helpful to have access to more like real, data that it's not literature, but actual like empirical data. Yeah, I'm very happy, or I'm very excited. I just came back from a farm in Berlin that they're doing a very important research with the University of Munich on tropic agroforestry, and the results are incredibly good in terms of incorporation of soil organic carbon. So it tells me, it's exciting to see that this is happening around the world. It's the Ernst Gotch model. I'm pretty sure you guys may know this, but anyways, yeah, very happy to meet you, and thank you for all this space.
Awesome. So Ecometric is a close partner with Regen Network, and so it's fun to see your project already in relationship to another like pretty large partnership that we have. So it's like it's multiple points of connection that you're describing, which is really cool. Yeah, we'd love to follow up more on that. For what it's worth, Nena Jane, who I believe is in the chat or not, is a Regen Foundation staff member and is based in Vienna, so maybe y'all could get coffee sometime. Yeah, Ozcan, I saw
Okay.
you turned on your camera, which oftentimes means you're interested in just saying hello. I welcome you too.
Hello, thank you for organizing this conference and informing us about what's going on and on all the developments. It's also helping us who wants to generate a carbon credit protocol, but still couldn't take a mature step about it to catch up with the things going on. I am one of the early founders of the Regen Network from the pre-ICU level. I know Gregory. We had some talk, and then we are in talk with. We have already arrived in a certain step with Luke Schmidt from Terra Genesis for starting to generate a carbon credit protocol for hazelnut gardens. Hazelnut gardens, yes, there are hazelnut. You Americans say filbert. Okay.
Yeah, hazelnuts, as I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. The problems are time. I couldn't start yet to go on the further step with this project because of time, because of money and power. So if I can manage better to obtain more power in my personal career, got connections already there for the protocol to move on. Better time management, better money management, and in short time, I think we will be one of the pioneer credit protocol that region will have in their under their belt.
Awesome. We should stay in touch. In the chat, early on in the chat, Dave Forston pasted a link for people to join the newsletter and be like, just to add your contact if it's not already there so that we can be like immediately in touch around developing projects. One of the things that stands out to me from the comment that you just shared is that it's very much an emerging field, and it's an established field, but it's an emerging field, an emerging market that's daunting in its complexity. And when Sam spoke about this notion of like progressive validation or progressive verification of projects, I think under the hood of that is to say that you don't necessarily have to start out by making a credit. That's not the first thing you have to do, but to anchor a project in a durable attestation on chain, start making claims and attestations around impact through data sets, evidence, things like that. And that progressively this builds the narrative and builds the substance to form a credit or some other impact verification system or grant reporting framework. You know, it's not just credits, but I encourage you to think of it progressively as like a place with evidence and claims made about it. It aggregates over time to form credits. So you can get like right away. And that's really part of this idea of like kind of progressive verification.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's completely daunting and kind of monolithic to start doing this, especially when it's been a very opaque and sort of centralized industry.
Where should I put my project? Where should I start from?
We should set up we have a couple of things. We have recordings around setting up project pages, which was one of the demos of a previous Ecocredit building up. So I can make sure that you get that information, or if
Well,
any.
I like to study
Yeah,
that.
I can do that while others are talking. I can dig up that example. If not, I'll make sure that you get it afterwards and that we'll post it, the previous recordings. But starting by making a project page, and then we just launched this data streams thing yesterday, so you can already begin populating that and making attestations and claims. But project page is a great place to start.
Great.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
Where are you
I'm
based, by the
glad
way?
I joined today.
Where are you based, Özkan?
Italy.
Italy. Cool. Where in Italy?
Italy.
Where? Where in
Tuscany.
Italy?
Yes. In Tuscany.
In Tuscany.
In
Cool.
a Tuscany region.
Yeah,
Yes,
Tuscany.
yes.
Ecocredits. I love it.
And I am originally Turkish. And the company I work for sell 5% of world hazelnuts. Okay,
Got it.
world hazelnut supply. I'm in person selling 1% of world hazelnut supply every year. And people that I am connected to buys and trade 100% of hazelnut supply in the world,
Which is
in
to
all
say,
world.
you are deeply interconnected in the hazelnut distribution, global distribution scheme. Cool.
Yes, and I wrote a book about it,
Paste it
about
in the chat,
hazelnut.
please. Please.
It's on Amazon Kindle if you want check Özkan Çavutkan World Map of
I encourage you to share
Hazelnut.
the information in the chat, and I'm also noting that I'm trying to make connections across geographies, but Berk Soto, who's
So
in the chat, is also Turkish and doing some cool credits based in Turkey that you two could potentially connect.
yeah, would be nice. Turkey produce 70% of world hazelnut supply. That's the thing.
7-0.
70%, yeah, the world supply. Italy, 12%. Second producer with 12%, but number one consumer consume 50% of world supply.
So
So it's
produces 70 and consumes half.
yeah, but so there is a international nut council, international nuts and fruit council. That's a very important part. I want you to get this point. The founder of International Nut and Fruit Council, okay, managing all the dry fruit and nuts in the world with 1,000 members. This is a big lobby of 1,000 members from all around the world that are the managing the nuts and fruits, nuts and dry fruit. So the person who is my partner on this idea is the founder of this association, INC association. Look, I write here INC Nut and Fruit Association. So if hazelnut go out, credits for all the other nuts and fruits would come after. So there is a big impact potential.
That is clear. It is very exciting to see projects on the ground who are already strongly affiliated with large like guilds, associations, and lobbies that show a process by which it could scale quickly.
Yes.
I don't know if you're seeing this, Ozcan, in the chat, but Berk Soto doing kindred and similar work in Turkey right now is saying hi. So you all should definitely.
Soto.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna invite. We usually will like close out about 10 minutes before the end of the hour to do a little share back. So we have about 15 more minutes here in the chat. I welcome others to introduce themselves if you like. You don't have to, you can just lurk or do whatever you like. But if anyone has wants to introduce yourself or like ask any clarifying questions that feel like, are unresolved that myself and or Gregory can support. This is a great place to get some clarification. So introductions, questions, anything you all like. Hi, Sota.
Let me see. Hey, I'm on the road, so probably I have a background noise.
No worries.
It's just nice to see you after a long time. Thanks for hosting. I've been missing since March, all those meetings, but I will get on very soon. We are in the process of the harvesting, so I'm gonna be a bit busy next couple of weeks. But I'm ready to catch up. And yes, just wanted to say hi.
Right on.
Thank
Can
you.
you tell others what it is you're harvesting right now? A little bit more context.
Industrial hemp, actually. So we've been working with hemp since its legalization. And we had the great news on the last Friday, which is the 13th of Friday the 13th. And we have the medical cannabis finally has been legalized. So it's a big news for the country. Now we will be able to grow for CBD and THC. Let's see how it's gonna hold up. I'm better with the soil and with the hemp. It's outdoors, but with the medicals, it's gonna benefit so many people in this bioregion, and it has like very big potential of financial income for the country also. So let's see how it's gonna go. And we, as artists, also one of the validators in Regen Network, trying to create a Regen action rewards ecosystem, starting with a couple projects. Yes.
So if I understand correctly, part of what you're saying is that cannabis has been partially legalized in Turkey, although you've been working in hemp and industrial hemp production, but effectively like a market, a staple like crop in global supply chains that's an emerging market in Turkey that you've been working in for some time. I didn't know that the legalization process had just undergone, which is super exciting for the work that you do.
Yes, it's only 6 days ago. So let's see how it's gonna hold up. The application period is next month. So we are also preparing. I don't want to be like I'm a big. That's the reason why I started the hemp actually with the medical part of this plant. I see so many people getting healed with their endocannabinoid system, which helps with the homeostasis of the body. So I'm finally very hopeful after many years.
Right on. Cool. Thank you for sharing. I'm curious if Greg or Charlie, if either of you would like to say hello. I don't believe I've ever met either of you. It's also fine if you don't. Hi, Charlie.
I was doing other work at the same time, but just trying to keep an ear in. I work for an organization called Dark Matter Labs from Berlin.
Sure.
And we're doing various bits of work on air quality at the moment. We've got a bioregional currencies work stream. And so I'm just trying to keep my ear into things like this as we go about the early stages of funding this work. We've got an application in Costa Rica with a local organization. And it'll be months away until we start getting work into this area. But I'm turning up to things like this to see who else is doing work, particularly on air quality, if there's other things going on.
Nice. One of the topics that wasn't really addressed in the registry presentation is the nature around how claims and attestations can support and underpin different kinds of like nature-backed currencies or local currencies or mutual credit systems and things like that. I'm curious if you can say a little bit more about air quality, like how does that interact with a currency system, or what are you measuring, or like what are the indicators that you're working for?
Yeah, I can also share a PDF which might help a bit more into the chat.
Sure, we'd love it.
The applications we put in mostly around citizen monitoring at this point, so are being tentative around trying to jump straight to currency design solutions. But yeah, that'll have a much more comprehensive route than I can give in this short intro.
Very cool. Yeah, we have many mutuals, Regen and Dark Matter Labs. So I'm happy that folks are showing up, and I really appreciate the work that you all are doing very much. So thanks for coming through and being willing to turn on your camera and introduce yourself.
Nice to meet you.
Cool. Well, hi, Greg. Nice to meet you too. Thanks for the chat. Yeah, I'm curious if anybody has anything else that's alive or they're curious about in this larger space. I'm happy to do a couple of things that I think are really exciting to prompt conversation, but I'll open it up again. I'm fine with a little bit of awkward silence.
If I may quickly, thank you very much for the mention of progressively listing a project. That was a small comment from you, but a huge penny dropping thing for me, because the whole process has seemed very overwhelming. But just the fact that we're making claims without necessarily having a credit behind it, that's a huge weight off my shoulders. So thank you for that comment. Right.
Totally. Well, let's unpack that for a second, because I think that is an enormous unlock to what this like decentralized open source approach towards ecological value, regenerative value definition means. And that can unfold in multiple ways. One of the coolest concepts, I think, in this notion around the data taxonomy that Sam has introduced with Registry 2.0 is that it presents a way to make claims and attestations. And the validity of those claims are like what you sign and anchor. It could follow any number of validation or verification processes. But one of the outcomes is that we stop thinking about credits as just a like typology of value that you're making a credit, but more like a credit is an aggregation of different claims and attestations. But you could aggregate claims and attestations around ecological impact to do monitoring and reporting for a grant that you received from the federal government to demonstrate how you used the funds, or whether or not a particular environmental policy was effective or not. Those reports or monitoring and verification, say in the public sector or in the philanthropy impact investing sector, those themselves are also effectively aggregations of claims and attestations. So what we're trying to build is these graphs of claims and attestations that can be basically Lego blocked together in a kind of modular way to build a type of credit. But you could do this also with a compliance reporting basis. You could do this with grant expenditures and the efficacy with which you use the money. You make claims around how it was used. And it's progressive in that it can build up over time, and that we're trying to basically make like composable building blocks, like Lego blocks, to make things that can become credits. And perhaps those credits over time become more and more sophisticated, or can make claims that start in the domain of carbon, but maybe move into biodiversity, or they move into like biocultural relationships, so that it's just a carbon credit, it's just a biodiversity credit, it's just a stewardship credit. Like we're building an engine where there's stable confidence units around claims, and then those can be compiled to do any number of other things. And hopefully that makes it less daunting, because effectively what you're always going to begin by is trying to document and validate positive regenerative impact and anchor that in some way so that it's trusted and honored, and that accumulates.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really cool in this that I encourage folks to consider is this notion of project pages, which is sort of like a shopping cart, or like right on, Askan. Thanks for the encouragement. And thank you, Charlie, for pasting the PDF. I will an air quality currency. Very cool. Very cool. I encourage you all to check out project pages and learn about making your own project pages on Regen Ledger, because it's basically a way to get off the ground immediately to create a kind of container, like a vessel or a shopping cart, with which claims and attestations can be attached. So the data stream is a way of uploading and submitting the evidence, the data sets, that over time can form claims, but you don't have to have everything figured out in order to start uploading it and then have it begin to be structured. So project pages are a kind of like open container for ways to describe positive regenerative impact that we could then use to underpin a nature-backed currency or a mutual credit system or a conventional voluntary carbon or biodiversity credit. And so that, yeah, we are in the world of developing. We've basically built primitives that allow us to develop any number of kind of like ecological systems of value or different kinds of like private or public policies that are data driven by impact. And so like air quality currencies, I think, is a very interesting premise there. I'm gonna write a notification to the rest of the group right now to let them know that we're all going to come back in. So anyone's welcome to chime in if you like, but I have to manage the breakout rooms for 1 second.
Are you able to multitask? May I ask a question while you're typing?
Yes, for sure.
Great. So the question has to do with this link back into the corporate space. And what we're specifically doing is working around a concept called impact-weighted accounting, which is a way of making an entry on your profit and loss statement, which takes negative and positive impact into account and puts a dollar value on those impacts. So it's a body of work that initiated at Harvard University, but it's now being backed by a British philanthropist. I'll have to look up his name. I've just gone blank. But it's a nice, elegant way of recording impact on a profit and loss statement. And so what we're doing with these claims and promises is allowing a corporate to list that. We're working very closely with a global auditing firm, which is not one of the big four. I guess my question is, has the phrase impact-weighted accounting entered your domain yet? And do you know of anybody who's doing work in this space?
I might know people who are doing work in the space. It's just me speaking personally. I have not heard that phrase before, so I'm very intrigued. Any references you have, impact-weighted accounting?
I can send a link through. Relatively new, although Harvard worked on this 5 years ago, but it's just entering the lexicon now of audit. And what it's doing is combating the immense complexity in the ESG standards. Nobody knows what's going on there. And so here's a much simpler way of for a corporate to record their positive and negative impacts.
I see. And so are you using kind of P&L in terms of like ecological credit and ecological debt, like positive and negative impact? Or are you saying that there's a dimension of your actual financial bookkeeping that like includes measures of ecological impact effectively as like a new column or something?
The research has found a way of converting both positive and negative impacts into a dollar value so that you can do an apples for apples comparison, as opposed to, the idea is to get rid of greenwashing, which, as I'm sure you know, happens a lot. So when you see it as a dollar value, with an auditing firm behind it, you can see a measurable amount that makes sense to shareholders, C-suite execs, etc.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, I'm going to close the room. Part of what you're describing, Michael, gets into sort of something that we haven't talked about so far on this call, which is to say, okay, we can talk about discrete units of regenerative value or like evaluating positive impact and then including that into an accounting tablature. The question of, in these very emerging spaces around regenerative value definition, this is very much the case in the biodiversity sector. There's a question of, well, to what extent is that price fixed or like preset by the conditions that are at play within a restoration or conservation project? And to what extent is there like price discovery happening where we don't know what should be the equivalence of keystone species protection in critical habitat in the Amazon, and how a tropical rainforest versus a temperate rainforest compare in those ways. So this notion of like trying to find a way to develop price discovery sooner rather than later, so that it's not just producing credits and having them go to market, but like just basically creating a market, or informing purchasers to create a market, or accessing those purchasers. So this notion of price discovery, I think, is a really interesting kind of core question that seems like it's integral to what you're positing, is that there is some equivalence, there is a formula in effect that allows that to happen. Hi, everyone. Michael was just introducing us to the notion of impact-weighted accounting, which is really cool and included in the chat. We learned a lot about the fruit and nut industry and how it's really in its relation to Turkey and in Italy. And we have a lot of people, and also like a currency backed by air quality indices. We have a lot of people who are clearly saying in the chat that they want to make project pages, like, and want to know the on-ramp for that. So I'm wondering if one of my esteemed colleagues at Regen can drop into the chat a resource for people to get up and going on making project pages.
I'm on my phone. I'm happy to do that. Something else that I think would...
Burke has already done that, so there is a link there a little bit higher up.
Oh, great. And I feel like the creation of project pages is one thing to definitely go ahead and get in there and start creating data posts that are anchored, and they can be whatever you want them to be. The other thing, and that I was hearing from George, George, if you're still here, he was sharing this awesome concept that he has, and that the high-low space that we have is really intended for someone like you, George, to be able to go in and be like, hey, I am interested in doing this. I've started talking to Giselle. You can tag her. Howard's doing biochar work as well, to just share what you're doing and be able to kind of tap into existing things and get some feedback initially. And even if you spin up a project page and you want to post that as well to get some feedback, and we kind of take the energy and the needs from here and just keep moving within that space. So I'm also dropping in a link to that as well, that we can migrate any conversations into there as well.
Thank you. It would be really cool if when you made a project page, it also gave you the option to upload, to basically share that project page on Hilo. Be like, would you like to share this on Hilo too? Tweet this, or this is not the only point of surface area where you can introduce this to. So that would be a fun feature. George, you just maybe look like you were going to say something. Hi.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much for these. I'll do some follow-up from this with Giselle and with others. But yeah, this is exciting. I didn't know what I was getting into when I when I signed up for the today's thing. But I'm so pleased that it dovetails exactly with what I'm hopefully creating. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We love to hear that. It is very much a labor of love from the heart with people who are like-minded, so that we love hearing people say that.
Thank you.
Any other things emerge in the breakout room for Registry 2.0?
We ran through some scenarios. Yeah, Howard was digging in deep.
Thanks.
Jens was talking, if you want to speak, Jens is talking about the nuances of 2.0 for indigenous communities, particularly these different tribes within the plains that have different and connected ways of understanding buffalo, and how the frameworks that we create can somehow work with that and reflect that. So I thought that was wonderful.
Very cool. Great. Well, maybe we can reserve the last little bit of this time for those who want to make a project page to go ahead and do it. Ozkan and Burke, who both asked me over DM directly about how to start a project page, there's the link in the chat that's now been posted several times for people, so you all can go ahead and click on that and get going. And feel free to reach out to us with any support that you might like. Yes, you got it. I love it.
And I can do like a quick one too. So you can create a project with an email-based login or your Kepler blockchain wallet. Either way, you can create a project. And then from there, like you're filling in the content that, you would know. So you can add imagery and videos, you add short and long form descriptions. And that's really like the basics of it, is like you inputting the information and narratives that you want. And then if you want to take it a step further, then you're able to, like, just when you're looking at your project, you can create data posts. Like you can make an update, you can share about something particular, you can share some data about an event, like reports. So you can do that as well on the bottom of the project page. So yeah, just the biggest thing is you can get in with an email or your blockchain wallet. Do it.
Web2 and Web3 authentication.
Awesome. Sorry,
Cool.
did you
Thanks, everyone. This was
Oh, you're
great.
gonna say thanks. Yeah, this has been awesome.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
See you at Climate Week.
Ciao.
Thank everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See you. Bye.
Bye, AIs.
Well, soon. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. All right, I'm closing it. See you, Howard.